Hello, everybody. My name is Piotrowski, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my Agile Project Management retrospective based on the class this year. So let's just jump right into it. So what did I do well? Looking at the past experience of this class, I thought I did a couple things really well. So the first thing was bringing in outside information to my work. So a lot of the time I think about like how it relates to things that I've done in the past and work experience that I have. And so bringing that together with the coursework, I think really allowed me to see like how this actually correlates to things that I've done in the past. So like I worked at Wegmans for a co-op, and one of the things that I realized going into this class was that we did a lot of agile project things. Even though they didn't come out and say, oh, we're doing it with agile in mind, they just did them because that's the way that they always did them. Um, and I think bringing in outside information is so important to the MBA classroom, just because a lot of the stuff that we do is based on previous experience with like casework and things like that. So bringing in outside information definitely helps other people learn just how it relates to the real world. Because watching a video obviously is great to learn exactly how like the core concepts of things, but then bringing it to the coursework is definitely where things start to shine. Um, and then applying that coursework to previous classes as well. This goes along with bringing in that inside information. But I think just looking at like, oh, okay, like I took a I'm taking a project management course actually this semester, and we're doing a lot of the traditional project management stuff. So having this on the other side of being like, okay, my professor in the traditional class said that this is definitely the way to do it because of X, Y, Z reason. But in this class, we kind of look at it and go, no, it's not. But we look at what would the best version or best methodology be to use, because obviously different risk factors are involved, different time frames. If we have a really strict budget or time allowance, then all those things go into what kind of methodology that we're going to choose. What could I have done better? I think one of the things that I definitely could have done better is more outside research when it comes to my discussion topics and my submissions. Um, and so in the field that I've kind of worked in, which is like the data analytics and management stuff, we don't really do a lot of outside research in the projects that I've done, just because a lot of it is all internal. I mean, a lot of it is like internal research and making our own assumptions. So like when we have data come in that it's like, oh, okay, we're looking at sales data or something, I can't go out to the internet and look up why sales for a product are going up, because I mean there could be a couple news stories of milk is the cure all to all diseases or something, and we can be like, oh, okay, that's why milk's going up. But a lot of the times it just comes down to things that we can see within the business. So we go talk to people, we do all that stuff, but we don't do a lot of outside research. And so we make a lot of our own assumptions based on the data, which is something that I kind of do in my writing, and it kind of comes off in my work. Um, and then be better with timing. This is my first asynchronous / online class. So just being used to the deadlines without somebody in class telling you, hey, this is due next week and things like that. It was really tough. And so I kind of set a schedule of just, unfortunately, doing it kind of near the end of the due date. Um, but that was really kind of what worked for me. Just knowing that on Monday or on Wednesday night we had this due, and then the next Wednesday we had the quiz due, and then it flip flop back and forth. So when this was actually due on a Tuesday, I was kind of shocked because I was a little mixed up, but we got it. We got it there. Um, and then what did I learn? Obviously, the most important piece. And so I think the biggest thing that I learned is hybrid project management. Going into this, I knew a lot about traditional project management just through various classes, but looking at like the agile project management, I was like, okay, there are some things in here that just aren't lining up. And that's like when it comes to like a very like risky project, you don't just want to dive into it. You want to be able to look at the risks and assess them. So I'm like, maybe agile isn't the end all be all to the best project management. But then when we started talking about hybrid, where you mix the two together, I was like, okay, this is probably the sweet spot, because you don't want to be fully agile unless your work calls for it. And you don't want to be solely traditional just because agile is better in some ways. So bringing that hybrid project management style in and looking at what pieces can we bring from agile and what pieces can we bring from traditional to make this project the most successful. So I think hybrid's just exactly what I'm going to be doing moving forward in my project management styles. Second is user stories and product backlog kind of go together. Just that whole process of the Scrum and Agile piece is something that I've never experienced before. So I've never really looked at user stories, but I think that they're really crucial to understanding like why people do things and how we code them and understand them in like the software perspective of things. We kind of maybe think about it in our heads, but we don't ever put it to like words and put it into user stories like that. And then the product backlog, just different tasks and the user stories all coming together and looking at the sprint cycles and things like that. That was all definitely new to me. And then the last was the different types of meetings, which I think was so interesting. Just looking at like a stand-up meeting. Like you could easily just say it's a group of people standing up talking about what they've done and what they're going to do. But in so many different like psychological levels, it's so much more than that. And that is something that we looked at during our during the class was like, okay, you have like the stand-up meeting. And so it's like you go up, you just say what you've done, what you do, and you move it along the chart so people can visually see how the work that they've done. And one of the pieces that came up, which was so unique to, it was so interesting, was that people will get more work done because of these meetings. Because the last thing that somebody wants to do is come to the work meeting the next day and have them be like, oh, okay, Jimmy over there in the corner did this. Okay, Derek, what did you do? And you just say, I didn't do anything. And you'd have nothing to move. That just in front of everybody, you basically say that you didn't do anything. And that's just so, it's just something that we don't want to experience is that, I mean, like that emotion of just people looking at you and probably in their heads saying, wow, that guy is doing nothing. So just like that whole like psychological factor behind these meetings is so interesting. And also with the retrospectives too. Like, okay, you understand like what we did better or like what we could have done better, what we did good. And then you kind of bond over that experience of like, yeah, I think we should do this better. And somebody agrees with you. And obviously everyone's going to get a little closer with that. And then the planning meetings, sprint planning and things like that, just the different types of meetings that all go into the agile process. And then so when I was thinking about what still puzzles me, I think one of the biggest things was that, I mean, it's simple. Why is it called Scrum? And so a lot of the stuff that we read and things like that, they go, oh, it's because of Scrum and rugby. And here I pulled this piece from Sprint Zell, which is just a website online. And in one of their presentations, they say in rugby, Scrum is a tight packed formation of team players with their heads together, and they try to move the ball down the field of play. So that's like, oh, we're taking the project and we're moving it along together, which is exactly what Agile is. However, if we look at Scrum, that's not what Scrum really is. Scrum is the battlefield within rugby. Scrum is the piece where two teams come together, the ball gets dropped in the middle of them, they push against each other, and the one that comes out with the ball gets to keep it. And so putting that to software development, obviously it's teams achieving the same goal. However, you have another team pushing against you trying to achieve that same goal, which is not what we have in agile project management. We don't want agile. We don't want our software development to be a battlefield. We don't want somebody coming up with an idea and being like, hey, I think we should develop this user story, and we don't want somebody to just go, that's a dumb idea, and push against them. Obviously want some feedback on people's ideas and the work that people are doing, but we do not want a battlefield in our software and development. So why not call it rugby methodology? Because rugby, in a sense, is just everybody going down the field, trying to complete the same goal. And I think that that's exactly what it probably should have been called, but they called it Scrum because it sounds better than rugby methodology. Scrum just sounds cool. But how does this relate to Agile? So pushback can be positive. Obviously, when we have customers going, nah, I really don't like that idea, let's do something else. It's giving them more value by going back and changing it, which is exactly what Agile is it's constantly bringing value to the customer. And then we have to work together as a team. And that is something that they always say when in like all the things that say, oh, it's because of rugby and Scrum is in rugby. It's working together as a team, but it's also achieving that common goal. So I think that a lot of the stuff that when people talk about Scrum, they kind of leave out the pieces of like what Scrum actually is in terms of like the battlefield and pushing against each other and kind of that mosh pit mentality, and definitely more of the team aspect of Scrum, would you say? And then here are my 3 sources for that last piece. I just want to say thank everybody for the year. It was a great class. I learned a lot, which I'm really happy about because I think Agile is definitely the way that a lot of businesses are moving forward, but also much more like hybrid they're moving forward with, just to kind of bring in the way that they've done things and still kind of include that project manager role like we learned within the last week of still how to tie them into things. So yeah, that's all I got. So go out there and do some Agile, get your Scrum team together, and stay safe during the pandemic. Have happy holidays, everyone.